Against all odds, the newly divorced single mother Deborah Cumming opened Laughing Waters as a high-end villa rental in 1989. Capturing international attention, Laughing Waters positioned her for great success. She explains, however, that within less than a year, the dream was shattered. Find out what happens next and how Century 21 Heave-Ho Properties came to be.
What happened with Laughing Waters, that was very, very short-lived because the government changed hands. And 3 weeks after the government came back into power, I got a notice saying that my lease was being cancelled. So I went to the minister and I said, I have a 5-year lease. I've only gone 15 months into this lease and I have 20 weeks booked for the upcoming season. And basically they looked at me and they said, what this government wants, this government gets. And we want Laughing Waters. My lease basically stated that in the event that the property was going to be developed, because that property has been slated for development, even now it's still slated for development, that my lease could be cancelled. So I was told that they could build a little 1-bedroom room or put some bricks on the front lawn, and that could constitute construction or development. So at that stage, I was a young mom. I had a 6-month-old. I was 27 years old. And I decided that the politics was not something I wanted to get into. In life, there's just always disappointments, and it's always about picking yourself up and realizing that things happen for a reason and that you need to learn from it. So moving from Laughing Waters and going into the long-term sale and rental of properties, that was just a whole nother dimension. When I started that, I was basically grandfathered in it. You did not need a license to practice real estate in Jamaica at that time. So I started real estate and I learned as much as I could just from other people. I know like Valerie Levy, an associate, she was a big mentor to me. And then eventually I moved back to Kingston because I thought that the opportunities for getting into the long-term sale and rental of properties was that much greater. I had a little bit more support coming back into Kingston because I was able to open my own office within my father's building. I met my current husband. Well, actually, that's another whole story, but I met him before I married my first husband. And we actually dated before I married my first husband. And he was just a very patient man. He just waited for me to make my mistakes, and he was there to pick up the pieces when it didn't work out. So I remarried in 1989, and our son Scott was born in 1990. At this point in time, I was very big into the real estate in Kingston. Again, it was a similar situation where I was a working mom, and my son, because I had my own business, he came everywhere with me. My kids came on many, many showings. I mean, I'm sure they can tell you that they spent most of their time sitting in the back of a car while their mom was showing homes. In 1990, Heave-Ho Properties was formed, and I went into the long-term sale and rental of real estate. In 1998, I bought the franchise, Century 21. The reason for buying that franchise was that I felt that in Jamaica, the training and the education was not available, and the only way for me to get it was through an international franchise. The franchise allowed me to be able to garner the knowledge and the experience to be able to bring that to Jamaica and to teach my agents. It also allowed me to have a recognition as being part of an international organization. Century 21 is a North American franchise, and they actually came to Jamaica through the American Chamber of Commerce, and they were looking for offices here. So people had to make applications to the company, and they looked for certain things in terms of the management of the company, the business plan of the company, how your office was set up, the number of agents that you had, and something that you also have to pay for. So I managed to raise the funds to purchase a franchise. And what happens with that franchise, it gives you, as I said before, the training and the exposure that you get from being part of a huge organization. It's a name that people recognize and know. So what it did was allowed my agents to be able to walk into any office, meeting anybody, and you said Century 21 Heave-Ho Properties, they knew exactly what you were talking about, that you were talking about a reputable real estate company. I've had the franchise now for 15 years, and it has worked very, very well for me. We now have over 40 agents. We have representation throughout Jamaica. I've worked with almost every single embassy in Jamaica, almost every major organization. Some of the companies that we have worked with this year in particular has been particularly good for us. We've worked with the Trinidadian High Commission. We've just housed the US Ambassador for Jamaica, finding them a new residence. So it's been very interesting. I'm involved in the sale of the Oceana, so I'm actually doing business with the UDC and the Jamaican government. In early 2011, or maybe even late 2010, I was approached by a very large Jamaican company to basically look at merging my company with theirs. And so we spent probably about 8 months negotiating, and it appeared to be the right thing at the time. And as we got further into it and about to sort of sign on the dotted line, we actually came out and made an announcement and announced it to my agents and staff that this is what we were doing. And the reaction from the public or people that I worked with and my agents and staff was one that I certainly did not expect. They felt it was absolutely the wrong thing to do. And after giving it much thought myself, I realized that giving up, my life as an entrepreneur, having my own business, and all of a sudden having to report to somebody else and sort of basically putting my future in the hands of somebody else was not the right thing for me or for my company. It was a very, very difficult time because I lost probably 60% of my agents. I lost probably 40% of my staff. Early to mid 2000s, properties were just selling, Developers did not need real estate agents to sell properties. You had a situation where you had all of these financial schemes, Ponzi schemes going on. So people just had money, and they just bought real estate. People gave up their jobs, and they invested in all of these schemes, and they would go into a complex and buy 3-4 units. Money was not an issue. Of course, that was short-lived with the demise of the real estate, or the collapse of the real estate industry in North America. And of course, the OLINTs and all of those schemes collapsed, so people all of a sudden realized that money didn't really exist. So with that, you found a lot of developers going bust, that developments that they were in the process of building or had built, they could no longer sell, or people could not maintain their mortgages, or could not close on the transactions. So we went through very, very difficult times where just absolutely nothing was happening. For the last 2 years, I've been basically building back my business. It's been very challenging. I don't think I've ever worked so hard in my life, but I'm certainly seeing the fruits of that happening. We now have over 40 agents within our organization. I have a fantastic team. Everybody's very dedicated, very hardworking, and we have a mission and we have a vision, and everybody's working to that end. One of the things that we focus on in our company is training, recognizing that things never remain the same, that you have to be on top of technology, you have to be on top of what are the things that how do you get to the consumer? How do you educate the consumer? How do you market your properties? And I really, really pride myself as a business owner and an owner of a real estate company that we are always, always the forerunners in whatever there is in terms of getting properties sold and serving our clients. Real estate is just one of my passions. I think it's very important to have many passions in life. I think one would be exceedingly boring if your only passion were your work. I'm an exceedingly busy person. I am a yoga instructor. I've been teaching yoga for 12 years. I'm involved in an association called Jamaica Yoga Association, and the plan for Jaya is to take yoga to the entire Jamaica. Yoga has saved my life. I went through a period of my life where I went through a very major depression, and I did not get out of bed for a year. My daughter actually lived with my mother for 3 months, and I didn't even know. It was a very, very difficult time. I think I was just completely overworked, just doing too many things, involved in too many things. And I look at it as a blessing today because I thought I could have either had a heart attack or a stroke, but my body just shut down. And I didn't know where I was. I didn't care. I didn't choose to speak to anyone. I just went into a complete and total withdrawal. That's how yoga came into my life. A friend came to me and she says, "Deb, how about some yoga?" I said, "Okay, whatever." She came by and I started practicing yoga, started meditating. And that was 14 years ago. So I've had many challenges. I mean, being in bed for a year was a huge challenge for me. As a result of that, I've been involved in depression support groups. So something that I speak about, and I think it's important that other people that suffer from it speak about it. Apart from yoga, I'm a skier. I love skiing. I'm a sailor. I'm actually going sailing. So my life is very balanced. I work exceedingly hard, and I also have a great life in terms of a social life, in terms of extracurricular activities. My husband and I, we cycle together. I have a great relationship with my husband, with my children. My son is now 24. He's finding his way in Canada. Our daughter is 27. She works for Citibank. She worked with me for a while and learned a lot about business and decided it was time to go out and experience the corporate world. They both have their university degrees, and they're finding their way. One of the things that I believe is really, really important is that people need to experience challenges. They need to have difficulties, because you learn and you grow from it. And I believe that every challenge that happens in your life is for a reason. I believe we all have a destiny that's pretty much carved out for us, and we need to all sit back, meditate, and try to sort of figure out why this has happened, recognize it, acknowledge it, digest it, and move on. The word wealth means health. It means fulfillment. It means the ability to give back. It means security. It means happiness.